My name is Sophie Laclef. I was selected to talk at Pechakucha back at the beginning of 2020 at the Civic Center in Silver Spring, Maryland. I was supposed to give this talk as part of my senior seminar class, but it got delayed because of COVID. I now go to Dickinson College in Carlisle, Pennsylvania, and I swim for them as well. I am a twin. I have a twin brother named Matthew, and I was also raised bilingual. My father grew up in France, and my mother grew up in Miami. And they both spoke French and English to my brother and I when we were growing up. I lived in the Washington metro area from the time I was born until second grade, when my family moved to Crozet, Virginia, which is a suburb of Charlottesville, Virginia. And then we moved back to the Washington metro area at the beginning of sixth grade. So I was 10 or 11 at the time because my mother got a job offer in Montgomery County Public Schools. I had a language delay where I didn't really speak or start saying words and sentences until I was about 2 years old. Starting from the end of kindergarten and the beginning of first grade, I had problems with word recognition, reading fluency, spelling, writing, and was below grade level expectations. And in second grade, I got diagnosed with dyslexia. Dyslexia is the disability of understanding speech sounds and decoding words. Decoding words is basically the understanding of letters and language patterns, and because of this impairment, it makes it so much harder to recognize words quickly and figure out what they mean if the person hasn't seen them before. With dyslexia, there is a physical difference in brain structure. In dyslexic brains, there's less myelination between neuron and synapses, and it's basically like padding for neuron passages, which allows basically messages to be sent faster. So because there's less myelin, there's a slower processing speed. Also, areas for language have weaker connections due to the lack of myelin, which affects reading comprehension significantly. I remember in first grade, I was put into a reading group with a girl who didn't know English and moved here from America from Sweden, and a kid with autism. Now, I didn't realize what it meant at the time because I was too little, but it still makes me upset because why on earth would my teachers think that it was a good idea for me, someone who spoke fluent English, to be in a reading group with someone who couldn't even speak English? When I lived in Charlottesville, I was forced to go to a different room called Resource because I was on an IEP, and people would ask me why I went to the other room, and I struggled to come up with an answer because at the time I felt like my classmates would make fun of me or think that I was dumb. Before I would leave the class once a week, we would have word groups, and we would sit at a kidney bean-shaped table where we would go over the words. And I was in the lowest level again, with all the other kids who didn't want to learn. It was the same room as everyone else, so they could see what was going on. In my head, I would think to myself, I'm so stupid. And everyone must think I'm so stupid because I'm in the lowest group. In middle school, I was still in resource, and it honestly made me feel so self-conscious because I wasn't able to take a class like art and music, so I was limited in what I could do in school. So since elementary school all the way up until ninth grade, my time was spent feeling self-conscious instead of having classes that focused on my strength like art. I remember in eighth grade, it was the time where it got really bad. I would come home and cry because I just couldn't take it, and I just didn't understand the material because I wasn't getting the proper accommodations. So at the end of middle school, I transferred to a private high school that specializes in students with mild to moderate language-based learning disabilities called the Sienna School. This school helped me develop my skills in writing, reading comprehension, note-taking, and math. I learned to use color-coded planners, mind maps for notes, and media for projects, and this allowed me to understand material and feel more confident. I also had 4 internships through the internship program here. I interned at L'Académie de Cuisine, which is a culinary school, Pineapple and Pearls, which is a 3-star Michelin restaurant, the DC Court of Appeals with a judge, and the Montgomery Chamber of Commerce with a lobbyist. There are other schools around the country like Siena, but the sad part is that these schools aren't necessarily always accessible because of the high costs and are generally really only in urban areas. So students who can't afford these schools won't necessarily receive the help in order to succeed. In a perfect world, the solution to this problem would be universal design. Universal design allows for accommodations that are basically built in the curriculum and school planning. And we need a public school system that normalizes the needs of differences of students, saying basically it's okay to be different, it's okay to have help, it's okay. In an ideal educational system, there would be integrated instructions for students that have IEPs and those who don't. That kind of touches on the universal design idea, and this would help eliminate the stigma of dyslexia being taboo or having students feel degraded in class. No student should have to fight for their educational needs, but that's what happened to me and many other students like me. Unfortunately, I was able to find my strengths, but for others, many cannot. If there was more funding for public school systems, it would be a step in the right directions for students like me who are marginalized by the public school system. I was lucky to get the support I needed. If I wasn't able to get the help, this slide would have probably been blank. This picture probably never would have been taken. The speech that I'm giving right now definitely would have never happened. So I'm just really grateful that my parents were able to send me a school that set me up for a great start in life.